Hi, I'm Mark and welcome to learnhowtogarden.com. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not already subscribed to our own channel, there's a link just below this video. If you hop over there, all you have to do is input your email address and it means that we'll send you out a notification every time we put up a new film, and you also get access to our subscribers newsletter totally for free. 1st of January, start of a new year. I always start my new year by sowing onions. Now, this is something that's gone back years. My granddad always used to do it on the 1st of the year. And there are things we can actually sow to start our gardening off in January. There's onions, there's shallots, there's these little things. These are alpine strawberries. They won't give you a crop as big as sort of the strawberries that are grown commercially, but really sweet, really tasty. All year round cauliflower. You can even sow carrots if you've got a greenhouse or a polytunnel. You could sow these in a big 12-inch pot and they'll give you things much earlier than if you're sowing them outside. And you've only got to walk outside. In my own garden, I've got primroses starting, I've got camellia flowering. I picked these narcissi this morning. So it shows we've turned the corner. We've passed the shortest day of the year. The days are getting longer. And what's really important is plants know that the days are getting longer. And with onions, and onions are one of the things I'm going to show you how to sow today, what you have to remember is that for the first half of the year, up until the sort of summer equinox, they will just grow the tops. You need to grow as much top growth, the green leaves, into your onions as possible. And then as soon as the days start to get shorter, the onion knows that. The onion picks that up and it starts to bulb out. And that's because the onion needs 2 years to set seed. And that bulb is to give it energy to get through the next winter. Well, obviously we're not going to let it get through the next winter. We're going to crop it and we're going to get really tasty onions. So I would say if you want to think about sowing something right now, onions, leeks are brilliant. Any of the ones I've talked about, or chilies. Chilies are something else that need a really long growing season. But the one thing I would say with chilies is that a single chili plant in your greenhouse will give you, for most of us, probably enough chilies to get you through a year. So think to yourself, do I want to take all that space for growing chilies? And do I want to actually sort of grow that many? And if you think to yourself, I only want 1 or 2, then your best bet is to actually think to yourself, I'll buy 1 or 2 plants from a specialist. So the first decision we have is how many of each plant are we going to grow? And I was walking around my local garden centre a couple of days ago just to see what seeds are coming out. And one of the things that fascinated me, there's a tomato called Rosada. I think it's a great tomato. In one of the very well-known sort of pretty packets that you can see, 6 seeds were £3.75. From Simpson seeds, 6 seeds, a couple of quid. So you can more or less get twice as many seeds for your money by getting seed catalogues, or you can save yourself half the money. So that's, again, I mean, I know I've banged on about this in previous things. Look at some of the specialists and decide what you're going to grow. And I've covered tomatoes, chilies, various things in some of the videos about what I think is best for taste, but no doubt I'll be going over them again. The other thing that I always say is try something different, and for me one of the things this year is going to be this. This is a Gretto. It's fairly new to the market. It's only been grown commercially for probably less than a dozen years. It's a bit like samphire, which is a vegetable that grows right on the sort of edge of marshy ground. It tends to be quite salty, samphire. It grows in the brackish water between high and low water. This one isn't quite as salty and slightly lemony. Supposedly a bit of a nightmare to germinate, but we'll be giving that a go. So that's sort of one of my try something different for this year. And think to yourself, what am I going to try that I've never tried before? Watercress, mushrooms, ochre, they're all brilliant. They're all easy, and they're things that you're not going to sort of pick up in your local supermarket. But it's January and we're going to sow onions. And the first thing you need, or I think you need, are some of these. Now, these are cell trays, and they basically mean they're like individual little pots, and they come in different sizes, and depending on how far north you are in the country, you might need a slightly bigger cell because the plant's going to be in there longer. Now for me, these are a bit big really. They're more the sort of thing that you can get into a size to sell in a garden centre. These little cells are quite a good size, but for myself with onions, because I like to grow them quite slowly, I actually use a cell tray that's actually got even more but smaller cells than this. Because I choose to grow a lot of onions in 4 or 5 different types, there are about 345 cells in this tray, and they're really small. And the onions I choose to grow it this year are quite a sort of classic onion called Ailsa Craig. Ailsa Craig's a big rock off the coast of Scotland. It's a sort of geeky little point. It's where most of our curling stones used to be quarried, and I think still are the best ones. It's the onion that most of the big show bench onions you see were developed from. Wherever you see these huge strains, they all were developed from this one. But it's still quite a nice sweet white onion. We've got what a lot of people call banana shallots really these days. This is long red Florence. This is a longer Italian onion. Again, not quite as sweet as a shallot, but I think a different taste entirely to Ailsa Craig. And then we've got one of the French yellow onions, which is stronger, and I grow purely to put into onion tarts at the end of the year. And they don't need a lot of heat. They need some heat to germinate, about 55 to 60 degrees. So a windowsill, they would germinate quite happily, or a cool greenhouse, or if you've got a propagator, you can sort of set your propagator quite low at this time of the year. And I'll do an entirely separate post on propagators, because it's one of my little hobby horses. You're better to save up and get a really good propagator for a couple of £100 and spend sort of £50 3 times on ones that don't really give you the sort of effect you want. The other thing that will work brilliantly well for onions is to put them in your greenhouse just with a heat mat, so that you get about 55-60 degrees at the roots, but it's cooler on top, because they are going to go out while the weather is still quite cool in March. We don't want the growth too soft and too sappy, so better to grow slowly with less heat than quickly with too much heat. This is the tortoise and the hare thing. Onions are a long-term thing. We're growing them so we get better tasting onions in varieties we can't buy, and we know what's in them, rather than purely to save money. Because if you want to save money, onions, like potatoes, are one of those things that you're probably cheaper buying from your supermarket. The next thing you'll need are some glasses, if you're like me and have lost the ability to see without them. A dibber, and that's just to make tiny holes, literally small indentations in the top of each one of these trays, and then some tweezers, because we're actually going to sow these onions using tweezers off our hand. I know it's fiddly. What else are you going to do on New Year's Day? You can do this with the worst hangover as long as you don't shake. And we plant seeds about twice their depth, and onion seeds aren't that big. I'll just get some out to show you. So these onion seeds here are about 1 millimetre round. One thing I would say, the onion seeds you buy from your supermarkets won't germinate. I've tried that just to see. And all we're going to do is take them one at a time with our tweezers and pop one into every one of these cells. I've now put 2 seeds into every one of these. Now you can put 1 in and just the ones that don't come up disregard. If you put 2 into each one, you just get rid of whichever's the weakest seedling. I mean, the seed's quite cheap. It's entirely up to you which way you do it. Label it. It's really important. The amount of times that I've sort of put the wrong label in things or thought I'll remember that, and you don't. And then this is vermiculite. Now this is the finest vermiculite you can get, that I've then literally put into a food processor, so it's like dust. And just using my finger and thumb, I go across all of these, putting a very, very fine covering. And the reason I use vermiculite is it keeps moisture around those seeds, but it's so light it lets air in. Air is as important to germination as light and heat. And we cover each one, and then I'll very finely mist over the compost just with a hand mister. One thing I forgot to say is before you start sowing, you really need to water the compost. You're better to water the compost half an hour before you start sowing. Let it drain. We need to keep our seeds warm and damp, not warm and wet. Over-watering, keeping compost too wet is one of the most common causes of seeds failing to germinate at this time of the year. That and fluctuating temperatures. It's not the maximum temperature you can get, it's keeping an even temperature that's important, which is why some of the digital propagators, although more expensive, are worth the investment if you are going to grow vegetables or flowers for that matter fairly seriously. And it doesn't take long even with the average garden to sort of recoup the cost of a propagator. You've only got to make a couple of trips to your local DIY place to get a few flowers to go in your borders, and you've more than paid for a propagator. So I'll just continue doing this, cover them all, very lightly mist it, and then literally pop this onto a heat mat. My heat mat is made by a German company called BioGreen, and because we're only trying to get 60 degrees, and it's exactly the same for alpine strawberries, which you would sow in exactly the same way as this, a heat mat is great, cheaper to run, and at the end of the season you can just roll it up and put it away. This is going to sound a bizarre piece of advice. One of the best places to look for things like heat mats, if you go onto the internet, a lot of the companies out there that sell stuff, the hydroponic stuff for growing cannabis, they're experts in all this heating and hydroponics and various other things. So as companies, they normally have some quite good offers on. And I know it sounds a really odd thing, but they are quite good sources of things like heat mats or hydroponic systems. So there's lots you can sow. There's lots you can be doing in the garden. The other thing is, if you've got rhubarb, if you've got sea kale, now is a perfect time to force them. Now, to force them, that means covering them with a forcer. I'll just show you what a forcer looks like. This is a rhubarb forcer. Sea kale forcers are a bit taller and a bit wider. And what it means is, it looks like a pot, doesn't it? But as you can see, it's a pot without a top. And it excludes light, and the exclusion of light is what forces or pulls those stems of both sea kale and rhubarb, making them grow in a dark environment, which makes them much tenderer and much sweeter. You can see from the amount of moss on this one, this is quite an old one of mine. I do like old things like this. They are quite expensive again to acquire. You can do it using a black pot with the top cut out, but it won't be as stable. Being terracotta, this is much better. And you can also pop a top on this to totally exclude light, so that once you've got them coming up taller, by excluding the light, that's when they'll actually get sweeter. The most expensive rhubarb you get in this country is actually grown under candlelight still in the rhubarb triangle in the north of England. So another job you can be doing if your rhubarb has been in a couple of years, if you don't grow rhubarb or sea kale, there are posts on Learn How to Garden that tell you how to grow both. I do grow both of them, and I find them brilliant because they are perennial vegetables, and that's one of the things I think we should all be growing more of. So there are some of the things you can be doing in January. February, there's loads to do. Try and get all your digging done now, because come February it really will take off and you'll find you don't have enough time to get it all done. So that's Mark at Learn How to Garden saying good gardening, Happy New Year to everybody, and I'm sure the next year will be much better gardening than the last one. Thanks a lot.